All right, let's talk backs, running back position. We talked about the quarterback position yesterday. Running back position, the backs worked out today, and I anticipate it being a position that the Texans are going to address in some way, shape, or form. They definitely have to upgrade the position. You like what you have in Dameon Pierce, but you need to upgrade the position. The only question is how, what, when, where do you go in the draft? Do you do free agency? Those are the questions. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610 on In the Loop, the show of record. So today's workouts with the running backs, it pretty much just clarified what we thought. We knew Bijan Robinson was going to be the top back in this draft, and he looked the part, especially in the drills. Now, I guess that he was going to run like a 4.44, I think, 4.43. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure. But it was in the 4.4 range. So no surprise there. I've seen the reviews. The scouts seem to be really impressed. He's going to be a first-round pick. We just don't know how early. There are some Texans fans who'd like to take him number 12. I would be okay with that because I think that the running back position needs to be taken serious, and I think Dameon Pierce needs another guy. We saw some good things from Dameon Pierce last year, but he didn't carry the ball a lot at Florida. I think 330 times, 339 or something in 4 years was what he was how often he carried it. And then you saw him last year, 220 and how many ever games he played. And he kind of, I don't want to say he wore down, but he got hurt. So they're going to need multiple backs. They're going to need backs that can do a lot of things. So if Bijan goes at 12, I wouldn't complain about it. I will say, though, if you listen to this show, if you watch this show, if you listen to me on Sports Radio 610, I've been high on someone else for a long, long time that plays a different position, but a position of need. And that is wide receiver, and that is Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is an absolute stud. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is a 60-catch guy the second he gets in the league. I know that people will talk about him being hurt this year, and I get it. I think it was as much of erring on the side of caution for this moment as anything. He had one of the most impressive combines. He's going to run his 40 at his pro day. So as much as I would not be opposed to Bijan at 12, I would love to have Jackson Smith-Njigba at 12. And I don't care if you think he lines up in the slot and you have John Mechie, figure it out. You can have multiple slot guys and you can figure out a way to use Jackson Smith-Njigba. But right now, like my dream start would be Bryce at 2 and Jackson Smith-Njigba at 12. But if you go Bijan Robinson, not only are you getting a running back, you're getting a guy who has unrealized potential as a receiver and a guy who's going to be maybe the offensive rookie of the year. The next elite guy, and we know this, and right on cue, Andre says Gibbs at 33 would be okay with Robinson at 12. Gibbs ran a 4.3 today. And if you, I think this running back group, there's going to end up being, some guys like in the cluster, whether it's Charbonnet, A-Chain, or whoever. There's going to be some guys who end up being studs and maybe even like year 1,000-yard backs. But the two elite guys are Bijan Robinson and Gibbs. Gibbs ran the 4.3. Both of them actually have less use, less carries, less wear and tear than Charbonnet. But if in the top 33 you can get one of those two guys, then I think you've done pretty well for yourself. But getting one of those two, I think that's what would really set stuff off if we're just looking at the running back position. Now, we already got trade up, trade down suggestions and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know about all that. Double Cross says JSN runs like a 4.6. I don't know. He hasn't run yet. I know he has the best 20-yard shuttle, and he had all the other drills. He was uncanny. He looked good running. He looked good running routes. A-Chain ran a 4.34. If Nick decides to go defense at 33, we could snag A-Chain later on. Yeah, if you get A-Chain in the third round, I think you would be all right. I could easily see a scenario. I could see a scenario where Gibbs falls to the second round. I could see a scenario where both Bijan and Gibbs both go in the first round. I think it's that much of a gap between them and the rest of the guys. So whether or not if Gibbs is there at 33 or if he's there on day 2, he's not going to be there very long, and that's where teams are going to start to get aggressive. But that's where we're at with the combine odds. Vincent's asking the odds. 2 running backs taken in the first round. I'll say like 50-50. Because the good teams, they typically have the luxury of being, or they at least feel they have the luxury of taking running backs. Other teams are usually a little bit hesitant, although I don't think Bijan gets to like the end of the first, but who knows? A lot of teams don't value backs as much as I believe they should. But I would say it's 50-50. Like if a team on the back end decided they wanted, like if Philadelphia, we talk about Philadelphia potentially taking Bijan at 10. If let's say Philadelphia makes their first pick because they have the Saints pick, and then Gibbs is there in that situation, maybe that's where Philadelphia goes for it. So I would probably say 50-50 would be the chance if I had to guess on that. Also, free agency. Like, where are the Texans going to look in free agency when it comes to the running back position? Are they going to be in that market? Now, Tony Pollard, multiple reports suggest that Tony Pollard is going to be off the market. The Cowboys are going to franchise tag him, which I can't really blame them for doing. Do the Texans look at, I don't know, like Raheem Mostert or Jeff Wilson because of their familiarity with the system? Could they be looking at, some of these other guys? Samaje Perine, he runs this system in Cincinnati. Miles Sanders, I know that's been thrown out there. Miles wasn't even the best back on his team in the playoffs is my thing. I've heard Dearness Johnson, he runs this system. The craziest thing about this system is so many teams run it and have run it the last couple of years that you have guys that are free agents that are out there. Kareem Hunt in Cleveland. Stefanski runs this system. Now, would Kareem Hunt want to come somewhere where he'd probably have to share with Pierce? Probably not. Mostert, as I mentioned. You have Dearness Johnson, who hasn't gotten a lot of run. Jeff Wilson. There's a lot of options at free agency. I could see them doing both. And then there are some other like draft prospects that you don't know when they're going to go. I could see a big slide in draft prospects where we're not seeing a lot of running backs taken. I could see the third round coming around and the Texans having chances to get there. They're talking about Deuce Vaughn now being like a day 3 guy. He was the shortest guy at the combine history. Shortest guy in combine history was Deuce Vaughn. With one of those extra thirds or whatever, I think Deuce Vaughn is a guy that's going to help a team sometimes. So you got to figure that out. But as much as I would like the Bijan thing, I'm good with it. But I'm Smith and Jigba now. I'm Smith and Jigba, and I wonder what happens with Addison now. I could see people kind of overreacting to his combine. I know it wasn't as fast as a lot of people think, but Smith and Jigba is there. Terry says Rex Burkhead needs to go. Yeah, he's gone. You don't have to worry about that. It's really going to be interesting how they handle that position. We're actually like a week and a day away from the start of legal tampering and the start of free agency. And that's what's really going to be fun, because that's where the draft talk gets more fun, because stuff starts to shape up. There's also theories out there, and I don't know if this is going to happen or not. There's some people who believe, and I think Texans Cap was alluding to this the other day, where some people think that if you're going to trade up for the number 1 pick, you should do it now. And the reason being because then you'll have like a clear feel of what your needs are, what your assets are. And for team building, it gives you kind of a head start heading into free agency. Now, that doesn't always happen. We see, draft day trades that come down like the week of, but there are some people who believe that you make that draft day trade because you make the trade to move up to the pick because then you can have a grasp of what's going on there. It's hard not to be a Gibbs fan. If you put him with Dameon Pierce, I think you got something going. Like Gibbs, if you watched any SEC game, every time Gibbs touched the ball, what's the first name they said? They said he's Alvin Kamara. He's Alvin Kamara. That's the guy that can just make plays in many ways, and he's got that NFL Alvin Kamara type of thing. I think Bijan has that same vibe. I just don't think Bijan was – a lot of it had to do with quarterback play. Some of it had to do with scheme, but I don't know. And Jacob's bringing up the Bears completing a deal soon. That's what Ian Rappaport believes. I could easily see that. By the way, your boy's going to be on KPRC2 tonight. I'm going to be on KPRC2 with Chancellor and Randy. Jonathan was there, Alexander from the Chronicle, as was Aaron Wilson. So KPRC2 tonight, 10:30 Central. Your boy's there, rocking the loafers, ankle showing. It's a very polarizing thing. Nick Caserio did that. Some people were very critical of that. I thought that was a smooth move by Nick. Big loafers guy here on KPRC 2. Talking about trade ups, G Falcon says the Texans would be dumb to trade up. This QB class is not that great. If anything, they should trade back. The don't draft a quarterback group is getting heavier and heavier. And quite frankly, if Bryce Young's gone number 1, I'm fine with it. You can maybe sell me on CJ, but I'm fine with it. I really don't feel like arguing about Anthony Richardson today. I feel like I'm in La La Land with some of the stuff going on with him. I'll talk about that on KPRC2 tonight. You'll see some of that, or you can just go back to my last video on the Anthony Richardson thing. I actually think it's pretty hilarious, the way some people are acting about the Anthony Richardson combine. It's funny. The fact that he's in the first round discussion is great. But the number 2 stuff, that's just asinine to me. But whatever. A lot of people very impressed with the broad jump, the 40, the what else did he do? Vertical. And the Ryan Mallett throwing session against nobody. So yeah, that's where we're at. It's crazy. And James Harden says no one AR-15 hype is insane. It's like no one's seen him play in college, and it's like no one cares. People keep mentioning the whole like if you hear some of the names that he keeps getting compared to, it's crazy because Jalen Hurts. Okay, Jalen Hurts went to Oklahoma and developed a lot as a passer and as an undisputed leader of a squad. So Jalen Hurts did that. Then you hear Lamar Jackson. Come on, dude. That's a Heisman Trophy winner, Lamar Jackson, who went out there and carried a squad multiple years. So the AR-15 stuff is just a little bit crazy. Little bit crazy. JRG talking about Stetson Bennett completely overlooked. Where do you think he should go? Where do you think Stetson Bennett should go? That would be my question. I mean, you think he's like a second round pick, third round pick? I mean, I think he's probably going to be a day 3 guy. He actually had a pretty good combine. He actually looked pretty good. He was moving around pretty well, but who knows? Running backs, I think it's pretty cut and dry. There's a lot of debate about receivers. There's more debate about quarterbacks than there probably should be. I think we get bored. I actually appreciate it because it's the one time where people are trying to look for like the positive the whole time when it comes to quarterbacks. But running backs is pretty cut and dry. There's 2 guys that could go in the first round, and it's Robinson and Gibbs. And then it's a big group of guys that the teams are going to have to evaluate and try to figure something out, and nobody is going to agree. Like when you go running backs 3 through 10, nobody's going to agree on this. You got A-Chain, you got Charbonnet, Zach Evans out of Ole Miss is getting some love. Gray out of Oklahoma, Sean Tucker out of Syracuse. I've seen Miller out of TCU, McIntosh out of Georgia. Roshan Johnson out of Texas. He's getting a lot of love. But after that, it's just kind of a cluster. But if you want to significantly upgrade, like no questions asked, if you want to significantly upgrade at running back, there's 2 names to look at, and that's Bijan Robinson. You'd probably have to take him at 12, and it's Jahmyr and it's Gibbs. You cross your fingers and hope he's there at 33, or with those extra third round picks, you decide to trade up from the second to the end of the first and go get Gibbs. I expect offense to be a major emphasis for the Texans here. How do the tight ends factor to this? It's going to be crazy once you get past 12, because the Texans are going to have probably their eyes on maybe one of the premium backs, maybe the tight end position, depending on whether they take a receiver at 12, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Then that's where it gets really interesting. What are these other teams doing? What's going on there? And that's the situation. But it's very clear. Bijan Robinson, Gibbs, those are the 2 backs. And there's really, I don't think anyone will argue that. We'll argue about a lot of stuff. And chances are when it comes to the quarterbacks and all that, the odds are that we'll be wrong because that's just how that position goes. But I think the one thing we can all agree on this draft season, I think, is that it's Bijan, Gibbs, as Bubba says. It's Bijan, it's Gibbs, and the rest. I think we can all agree on that. Marvin Mims did ball out. Big Marvin Mims guy here. Big fan. Fuju asking what made me a JSN guy. He was a stud in high school. He's from Rockwall. Used to sling some fireworks out in Rockwall. Got some family right past Rockwall. 12 years slinging fireworks. Shout out to Nelson's Fireworks. Big ass warehouse out there. If you ever go out there during the season, just say I sent you. He'll hook you up pretty fat. That was like my summer job all the way through high school. I even did it in my radio career because it was like a trip. But so he was out there in Rockwall. They're actually called the Yellow Jackets, but their colors are orange. He was recruited by everyone in the state, went to Ohio State, and then I just watched him play. And you hear what Olave, you hear what Garrett Wilson, you hear what Marvin Harrison say about him. I've never seen someone that respected as Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I just feel like people are kind of sleeping on him. So when people start sleeping on someone, if I don't think they deserve it, I kind of just go to him. And I like players from the state of Texas. So that's what I think. The Colts' top choice at QB, I think it's Bryce Young. I think Irsay told you at the press conference when he slipped up and said the kid from Alabama is good. I don't think it was a smokescreen. I think Irsay is just kind of a big mouth. I think they like Bryce Young. I think everyone likes Bryce Young. I think this noise is kind of gonna die down. So there we are. Running backs: Gibbs, Bijan, then cluster Deuce Vaughn day 3. What say you? Put it in the comments. I'm gonna get some rest. Got a big show tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Join on the Odyssey app. Gonna have videos every day next week, per usual. We'll get the brain flowing. We'll move past combine. We'll start looking ahead to free agency. Also going to have a special guest next week. You will not want to miss that. He is one of the best. I'd say he's one of the best Texans of all time. So we will hear from him, have some fun with him, and I'll have some fun with you guys. Subscribe, like, ride along. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock, Sports Radio 610. I'm going to rest up. Check me out on KPRC2. Download the Odyssey app, and let's ride along. And, again, special guest, one of the best Texans of all time, joining the show next week. And we're going to keep the long lives going. But I appreciate all you guys for all the debate and stuff. We got a lot to get into, such little time. Running back position definitely needs to be addressed. Try to make Dameon Pierce 1A, 1B. But there's really only 2 guys that make that immediately 100% possible. And then the rest, it's going to come down to the evaluation. No matter what happens, whether they go back or not, appreciate you. Remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we are all in this together. Have a good one.